Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, we'll get the latest on how the Arizona National Guard is addressing reports of long-standing ethical and criminal misconduct. And should there be competition among electricity providers in Arizona? We'll hear from both sides of the issue. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. A federal appeals court today struck down Arizona's ban on abortions performed after 20 weeks of pregnancy. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that the law violates several U.S. Supreme Court rulings on abortion, including Roe v. Wade. Today's move reverses a lower court ruling that upheld the law passed by the legislature and signed by the governor 2 years ago. Well, allegations of sexual, ethical, and criminal misconduct by top commanders at the Arizona National Guard were first exposed by the Arizona Republic in reports that led to state and federal investigations. A Department of Defense report outlined evidence of fraud, sexual harassment, and cover-ups in a culture that failed to pursue perpetrators or protect victims. Major General Hugo Salazar, the leader of the Arizona National Guard, recently unveiled reforms to address the reported problems. Here to tell us more is Arizona Republic reporter Dennis Wagner, who broke this story, and quite a story it has turned out to be. Dennis, good to see you again. Thanks for joining us. When did you begin this investigation and why?
It started around May of last year with a phone call from an officer. It turned out to be several officers who came to me, and they said that they had uncovered and even investigated in some cases widespread corrupt conduct. We're talking about recruiter fraud, sexual abuse of recruits. We're talking about embezzlement of funds, drunken driving that went unpunished, a whole slew. And they said, in their view, there was a corrupt climate, and that it was tolerated by the upper levels of the Guard, in part because some of them were compromised by fraternization and other issues that they had. They said they tried to go through the chain of command. Many had tried to go through inspector generals or the equal opportunity office or the governor's office or their congressman, and all of those complaints were referred back to the administration of the Guard, and nothing was done. They said they came to me as a last resort when nothing else was working, and what one of them said to me was, you know, at this point, the honor of the Guard is so lost, I wouldn't let my daughter join.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so more than one whistleblower here, correct?
Multiple.
Multiple. How long had these things been going on?
It goes back years. And depending on who you talk to, I've had people say, well, you know, you only went back to 2005, 2006. You should have seen it in the late 1990s or the early 2000s.
My goodness.
So I really don't know the answer to that.
And we're talking, again, you mentioned a number of things here, but drug dealing was also, paintball attacks on homeless people mentioned as well? Right.
There was a whole network of, there was a FBI investigation of smuggling narcotics out of Mexico, where they actually used a National Guard Humvee and filled it with cocaine, what they thought was cocaine from an airplane, brought it to Las Vegas to distribute up there. The paintball attacks they were called bum hunts, and recruiters would take new recruits and other privates out sometimes in the National Guard vehicle and drive around North Phoenix with paintball guns, and they would sometimes hunt homeless people and shoot them with paintballs. Sometimes they would get them to dance for them or to do other humiliating things.
So who were alleged to have been involved, and how high up did they go?
Well, first, the Guard's like 8,000 personnel. That's military and civilian personnel. And most of these problems occur with the full-time Guard, which constitutes only, like a fourth of that number. The majority of people in the National Guard are weekend soldiers. They have civilian jobs often. They're dedicated to what they're doing, but they're caught in this system. There is an entrenched full-time personnel situation. People where I think in one side of the Guard, I think the average period of time being in the Guard is 20 years. That's how entrenched it is. And oftentimes it's cousins, brothers, friends get hired, and they have relationships. They're beholden to one another. That kind of thing goes on.
So, okay, you did your report. Department of Defense becomes interested here, I would take it. I would think we could understand why. They released a report, I think, earlier this month, something along those lines?
Right. Well, what actually happened is I did my report, and the governor announced that she was going to have an independent investigation.
Okay.
She asked the National Guard Bureau, which is a branch of it's an umbrella organization over National Guard's Pentagon organization. She asked them to assign an investigator. They assigned a gentleman from the Oklahoma National Guard named Major General Ricky Adams, and he brought in a team, and they investigated for weeks or months, actually, here, to see what they would find.
And what did they find?
They confirmed my reporting, essentially. They said that they found all of that, and they said they found more. They said they found a climate where misconduct was not appropriately addressed. They found a climate where leaders did not have the moral high ground to hold others accountable under them, so that the culture progressively had gotten worse.
So basically, I'm not going to do anything to you, because if I do, you're going to come after me, because we've both done something wrong.
Either because I owe you something, or because I have leverage over you. Because of that, there's multiple possible ways that can work.
I think one of the quotes in the report was, "Rules were flexible, fraternization common, and the risk for punishment low." Sounds about right, huh?
That's what the gist of it was.
Okay, so what happens now with Major General Hugo? First of all, who is Major General Hugo Salazar?
He is the commander of the National Guard. He's an adjutant. He's the adjutant general. He reports to the commander-in-chief, who is the governor. He's a full career officer who has been there. He was the assistant adjutant general for a couple of years before he became the man in charge. He was the chief of staff before that. He's got a long career there.
Okay, so the governor, I would take it, or the governor's office, not happy, I would imagine, with what's going on at the Guard. What actions did they take regarding Salazar?
Well, when the investigative report came out, it was a 107-page report. The governor announced that the findings meant that the National Guard was not broken, and that the findings were not an indictment of the National Guard. And she announced that she was disappointed in some of the findings, and so she was going to have Major General Salazar prepare for her an action plan, which just came out last week, to deal with the areas of problem.
So she said the system wasn't broken. Wasn't there an anonymous report in this federal investigation, 15 sexual assaults in just the past year?
That was just among those who responded to the survey, which wasn't even half of the soldiers and airmen. There's obviously far more that actually occurred. The sexual harassment and sexual assaults were singled out in the report as a particular area of concern, and the investigators found that it was facilitated by the fact that so many command officers had fraternization issues that they were really not in a position to challenge what others were doing.
And so that apparently is not broken enough to relieve Salazar of his position. And not only that, but he now is in charge and has come out with ways to rectify this? He's
come up with a list of reforms, changes. There were severe problems in the structure as well as I mean, there were a lot of problems, but they couldn't even do courts-martials. There's never been a courts-martial conviction. And the first courts-martial effort ever was just this past year at the Arizona National Guard. They never even court-martialed anybody. And we're talking about, there's been serious crimes here. There have been death threats and people bringing guns into work and all kinds of things going on, and people just weren't getting punished.
With that in mind, we've seen some of the reforms listed by General Salazar here, and they seem pretty, commonsensical. Report if you see something wrong, investigate misconduct, change policies to better enact discipline. I understand the critics are kind of wondering why this guy is A, still around, and B, investigating things that happen on his own watch.
I'm not going to say whether he should still be around or not. That's up to the governor. That's her call. All my job is to tell the story, tell what's happened, and in this case, what I said happened was actually what the soldiers and airmen who have come to me. I've talked to more than 50 of them, and they're all saying the same thing. You're exactly right in what you've reported. Keep reporting. I'm reporting what they've said, and it's been confirmed by the National Guard Bureau's own investigation. I was going to say, have you heard from, are you hearing from folks still in the National Guard, or are you hearing a lot from folks out of the Guard? Every day. Phone calls and emails from people in the National Guard. Don't let up. Don't let up.
Do we know what's happening next in this story? I mean, where do we go from here?
I think it's, at this point, I don't see a next chapter except are these reforms going to be put in place, and are they just paper, or is there going to be real action?
And again, requiring reports of misconduct by senior leaders, tracking investigations, changing policies to better enact discipline. I think a lot of people would be surprised that those things weren't done prior.
Well, that's the task of Major General Salazar. He is announced, when this report came out, actually it was announced that he's retiring this year, but that he's been tasked to carry out this mission first.
And how cooperative has he been with your investigation, with the media?
Initially, he was very cooperative. After my first series of articles, I did a series that came out in October. After that came out, he informed me by email that he would not talk to me again. And they have stopped providing any public records that are required to be provided under state and federal law.
And is it true that there has been a new effort to maybe tighten, target even whistleblowers? I mean, have whistleblowers become under a threat here at all, as far as you understand?
One of the problems pointed out in the National Guard report and in my own reporting is that whistleblowers chronically become subjects of greater abuse when they try to report, and especially victims of sexual harassment and sexual abuse become targets of retaliation. The National Guard has a firm policy against retaliation, but the new policies and the new code of ethics that came out also has a firm prohibition against talking to reporters like me. So you can't blow the whistle that way.
Yeah, okay. Well, fantastic work on this, and I have a funny feeling you're still going to be working on this for quite a while, don't you?
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
All right. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
At the entrance of Bullhead City's Community Park on State Route 95 is a marker honoring northeastern Arizona's vital relationship with the Colorado River. For nearly 30 years, in the mid-1800s, commercial steamships served the mining communities of northern Arizona, hauling supplies from as far downriver as Yuma. Cargo was unloaded at nearby Hardyville, often returning downstream with barge loads of local ore. Bull's Head Rock, from which Bullhead City derived its name, was located just upstream. The escarpment was used as a navigation marker and the point where Mojave Indians forded the river. Bull's Head Rock was submerged in 1953 with the building of Davis Dam. Today, the Colorado is still Bullhead City's lifeblood. Jet skis have replaced the steamships, and Laughlin, Nevada's casinos just across the river have replaced the mines, mining tourist wallets instead of the ore from the mountains.
Deregulation of electrical power markets swept the nation more than a decade ago, but the effort produced massive failures, including the infamous Enron case. Now the Arizona Corporation Commission is taking early and decidedly cautious steps at what is being called retail competition in a landscape changed by an increase in power sources outside the regulatory domain of the Commission. Here now with more on the future of electric deregulation in Arizona is Corporation Commissioner, actually that is former Corporation Commissioner Jeff Hatchmiller, and also joining us is current Corporation Commissioner Bob Burns. Good to have you both here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Give me a better definition of electric deregulation.
Well, it's really electric re-regulation in a way. It's to designate that certain components of electric delivery, like generation, are opened up to outside providers, private companies, not your APS, SRP, or TEP.
Is that how you see it as well?
Well, yeah, I think I need to qualify my statements because I'm in a position of not taking any sides. Now, coming out of the legislature, I used to be able to take sides, but not anymore. This is a different situation. The responsibility of the corporation commissioners is to represent the ratepayers. And so we end up in these issues of people on one side or the other, and our responsibility is to represent the ratepayers. We want to be able to get the best deal for the ratepayer, obviously. And there are a number of people out there saying that the way to do that is by retail competition, deregulation, open market, so forth. We have a regulated monopoly model in place now, and so a transition away from that is going to be a major effort. And so we want to at least take a look, but look very, very closely at it and study it very, very closely before we make any movements in any direction or the other.
The idea of the best deal for ratepayers, I mean, there's the best deal as to what you pay, and there's the best deal as far as public policy and infrastructure and the whole 9 yards. Talk to us more about that.
Well, most people want a low rate and reliable service. I mean, reliable service is even more important here in Arizona because of our hot summers. You want to make sure that your air conditioner is going to run pretty much every day. And so as Bob said, the Commission's role is to balance the needs of the ratepayer and the utilities to make sure that they're getting a fair profit off of their activity, and that balancing act is really important. But for the average user, Joe and Mary, they're basically saying, I'd like to have reliable, affordable electricity.
And I guess some people would look at this and say, is there a problem that deregulation would fix?
Well, and that's a statement that a lot of people make, what's broke?
Yes.
Okay, but there's also the other statement, there's always the better mousetrap. And now the pressure that's coming from those people, those organizations, those different types of energy production that are outside the control of the Corporation Commission. You've got independents building power stations out there. You've got the solar issue. You've got the wind and all of these other different mechanisms that weren't around when the last debacle happened. So it's a different landscape. And so I think it's imperative that we, the commissioners representing the ratepayers, get out in front of this issue. We need to understand as best we can what the options are out there and then make decisions based on that. So this is the reason why we voted to put this into a study category, if you will, to take a closer look and better know what all is out there as far as the options are concerned and how it will impact, at the bottom line, the ratepayers.
Is it a different landscape than back in the California energy crisis / Enron days? Because that was a debacle and then some. I mean, have things changed?
Not to my vantage point, no. I mean, there are different forms of generation, solar and wind primarily, but the issues are still the same. It's the same group that's coming in and applying pressure. They're the wannabe electric power brokers. There's the big power users. Mainly deregulation is to help lower prices for big multinational corporations, the big box retailers, the mines, the industrial activity. Most of the average smaller ratepayer really isn't in this game. It's a big money deal, and there's lobbyists. In Congress in the last decade they spent over $50 million just lobbying this effort in Congress. So it's a big money game. People from outside, like Enron did 12 years ago, came from outside and they wanted a share of the money to be made in the power business. And so from that vantage point, it's the same group, pretty much identical players actually, wanting to get back into the power market and sell to the big users of electricity.
Well, I think there's some additions to that. With all of these rooftop systems that are going into place. As that footprint grows, that has an impact on the utility company's ability to recover the costs of building the plant. And so that issue is also out there to be dealt with. I've heard recently in a couple of conferences I've been at that there's the development of fuel cells. And if they become successful, there was even the talk of a refrigerator-size fuel cell for the homeowner, which would basically put you almost 100% independent. Now, there's always got to be that backup system in case of some kind of failure. But so those issues need to be wrung out, I believe, so that we understand, again, as the commissioners, what works and what will not work. This pressure of the outside entities, the fuel cell people, there's talk of a breakthrough possibly, who knows when, on batteries, which would have a tremendous impact on the rooftop community if they could have batteries, and that all comes back as a smaller base for the utility to operate off of.
And we've talked about this before, that there may be a new normal coming very quickly as far as utilities are concerned, especially when you talk about net metering and a variety of other issues that could put lots of homeowners very independent of whatever's happening with the major utilities. Is this just a step toward that direction, or have things not changed in the grand scheme of things that much?
Well, it's fuel cells. We were talking about that back in 2001, 2003. Same issue. Solar we were talking about. Wind we were talking about. You know, the kinds of issues are the same ones, and it's the same group that's basically in the dialogue. I mean, for me, I was a proponent of deregulation back in the late 1990s. I even went to some of the American Legislative Exchange Council meetings where they touted it, and met with Enron officials in Washington, D.C. where they touted it. It wasn't until the big meltdown, as you already mentioned, first in California in 2000, 2001, where basically the electric system in California melted down to the point that they were having rolling blackouts all the time. It was a fiasco. The governor lost his job because of it. The ratepayers are still paying huge rate increases from that. And then Enron fell apart, and it cost hundreds of millions of dollars for the Arizona's, billions of dollars to the Arizona's economy, or to the America's economy. So it's, you know, those things happened, and to me, I don't see any lessons learned yet that protect us from that downside. Is
there, from what you've seen so far, and I guess, you know, from obviously you're studying as opposed to deciding right now, but have other states, and are other states using these ideas? Are they similar to Arizona? Can you compare and contrast? And how do you keep Enron from happening again? Well,
I think we obviously have to learn from the mistakes that were made, and there are other states out there. My understanding, Texas and Pennsylvania have some model in place, but that's part of this process, that we established the process to do the study to make sure that we don't get into this situation that happened before. I mean, and I think everybody on the commission is very, very sensitive to that issue. All of the employees there are sensitive to that issue. That was a big mistake, and so we definitely don't want to make that mistake again, but we do need to be able to understand the developments that's taking place, and a lot of development, I believe, has taken place. There may be some of the same types of units, solar and fuel cells and so forth, but those things evolve, and at some point they break through, and they become usable and very less, you know, a lot less costly to use. So,
with that in mind, yeah. Is it the best scenario that we can find right now for all of us to have these two major utilities with boundaries as the rule for whether or not you use X or Y?
Well, our rates here in Arizona are as low or lower than almost every deregulated state. If you look at the deregulated states, they're primarily the big northeastern industrialized, pretty much Democrat governmental control states, and their rates are way higher. We pay about 9.5 cents per kilowatt hour here. They're paying 14, 15 cents there. If you look at the list of deregulated states, they're primarily the total group of the most expensive states in the nation. So there's some issues here that we got to resolve. I am certainly supportive of the commission taking a look at the issue. that's appropriate. I think that they're doing a good job to move slowly and cautiously into that. But this has to come down to, it's not just for the big ratepayers. This has to be for Joe and Mary, the average little guy in the community.
Very quickly, last
Well,
word.
we put the priority that the ratepayer, the individual, and the small business people are in that category of needing the protection that we are there to provide.
All right, very good. Gentlemen, good discussion. Good to have you both here. We appreciate
All right.
it.
Thank you.
It's great to be here.
And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.